women are very good at saving, or thinking that saving is the path to financial independence. Saving may be necessary, but it's not sufficient, right? So this whole mentality around saving, it's a limiting mindset. I think that's one that, we need to sort of call out and encourage change in.
Welcome back to Wise and Shine. I'm your host Reggie, aka your Chief Financial Coconut.
And I'm Dawn, SG Budget Babe. Today we're going to talk about a really exciting and important topic, which unfortunately Reggie's going to be in the minority for today.
Hey, why is it unfortunate? Is it unfortunate?
We think you're super lucky.
First time,
Okay,
right?
yes.
First time in the entire Wise and Shine history that he's actually outnumbered on set by
No.
gender in terms of ratio.
No,
It is.
Sometimes we have one lady
Yes,
guest.
but you never
Really?
had 3-1.
Okay, you see, that's why. That's the energy of being outnumbered.
Right,
yeah.
yes.
So we have two other beautiful ladies with us on set today to talk about this topic, which is women and finance. But before that, we're going to let them introduce themselves and the book that they've written on, which is a really good read. So Serena and Sharon, off to you guys.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Serena Wong. I have spent my entire life career in finance. I worked in a sovereign wealth fund, investment banking, private wealth, family office. I'm actually in transition and going back to banking, which is a unusual
Why?
mid-career
Yeah, why are you
move.
going back
we
to
can
banking?
we can go into that later. But I think suffice to say that sort of have been in the financial markets and services sectors my entire career. So I know a little bit about money. I've been at least been surrounded by the topic of money. And what I know very well, and this even Reggie cannot dissuade me otherwise, is that I'm a woman. So the topic of women and money is something that I feel very comfortable, and very excited, and feel that that's a very important topic to talk about. So yeah, and I'm born and bred Singaporean. So again, I think shout out to all the content that you do. That's very kind of local flavored and very important, I think, topic for all of us.
Hi, I'm Sharon Sim. I'm also a finance professional. I've been in finance for 25 years across different parts of finance, starting with investment banking. I was at Goldman Sachs, Lehman Brothers. So I did go down with the Titanic back
you
in
went through the
2008.
Titanic?
Yes, I did. And I survived.
Lehman colors today.
Yeah, so I'm one of the survivors of that. I think we've been through a lot over that, the global financial crisis period. But I pursued finance throughout, and I think a third of my career has been in wealth management and family offices. So like Serena, I've always been surrounded with money, investment. And for me, investing is a hobby and a passion. So I started fairly young investing with my properties, and went into, more private investments as well. So right now I'm also running a venture capital firm, Purpose Venture Capital, and we invest in startups. So it's something that I'm very passionate about, talking about money, investing. And that's where I think Serena and I really collided, and I think, really have that synergy to want to share this message. And I think it came across as a book, which is something that we want to share with everybody here.
Yeah.
And I think this book itself is around money stories, women of all walks of life, really sharing their very personal, emotional kind of journey with money.
So even in the title, it's titled Why Women Don't Talk Money, right?
Yeah.
Because we've just really been, initially we kind of suspected it, but then the more we dug into it and the more we speak with men and women around us, it became so evident to us that women don't talk about money. Therefore, the book is called Why Women Don't Talk Money. And what we're trying to do, and it's an age-old topic, so it's not a new topic really.
Yeah.
But I think, again, a lot of things in life is timing, but I think so. We are really at a time whereby I think the women are much more ready to want to open up and discuss this fairly complex, very emotional topic. And our book is really an interview and an anthology discussion, deep discussion with 24 women to ask them to really dig deep and share their money stories.
So why women don't talk about money?
So I think the title came about because it's kind of a provoking kind of a sentence or question, right? There's no question mark to the end of it. It's a statement. And we wanted to kind of trigger that thought process It's like, why? And most people say, hey, I do talk about money.
Yeah.
But then, it's not for everybody, right? Not every woman feels very comfortable. And I think that's to kind of trigger a bit of a reaction, right?
Yeah, I think on the
Yeah.
surface, it's like, yes, we've noticed that, guys, and even, we were just talking about this as well. I mean, with the guy friends, even us with guy friends, they talk to us very openly about, what they own, what car they buy, how they are want to progress in their career, how much money they make. But with even between us, and this came in a much later stage where we don't talk about, our salary negotiation. We don't even talk to our parents or our siblings about how much money we're making.
Yep.
On the surface, you can say again, there's these very annoying questions like Chinese New Year and all that, or you buy a house, then your auntie or uncle say, "Hey, how much are you paying for it?" Or you just graduate from a job, and some shameless cousin come and ask you, "Hey, so much, how much are you getting?" Then we always just shy away, like we make some generic comment, like I have, Paiseh don't want to say, but we never really, I think, faced it very boldly and say like, this is what I'm making, this is what I'm doing.
And I think the title "Why" is also to kind of question the fact, like why are we not talking more about money? And I think it boils down to having a healthier relationship with money, right? How do we feel about it? I think a lot of women, we feel very uncertain when it talks about, money or investing. We might feel that, oh, we don't know enough. We tell ourselves stories that, oh, I'm not good with money, or I'm not good with numbers, or my math is terrible, right? So these are kind of internal dialogues we always have with ourselves. And the question we want to really dig into today, and maybe with the book, is why do we feel this way, right? And how do we then establish a much healthier relationship with money, one that is friendly, and you want to be friends with money, you want to share about your success with investing. As Serena said, talk about your how you negotiate for higher salary, how you get that promotion. I think those are all very emotional problems that maybe women face. And I think hopefully this whole topic around money can bring out all the other emotional, I think issues with a healthier relationship with ourselves and with our financial freedom.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, we wanted to bring you all in, of course, to talk a little bit about your book, but at the same time to tackle the topic of building healthy relationship with money, right? Because I think it's a lot. I know it's a gender lens, but there's a lot more than that, right? It's about the narrative that you take in, and some of these narratives are more common in a certain gender, but it's really just more about the narratives that we internalize around money, right? So I think eventually, as you get a bit more aware, then you cultivate the habits that work for you, right? I think that's a general theme of it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, but what is considered a healthy money, mindset, or like a money habit?
Maybe I can share like a personal experience, right? I think all of us get to know money at different stages in our lives. And I think the first memory for me around money is actually one that is very insecure, right? Because in my household, my parents are in finance. So they're always talking about financial markets, the stock markets back in those days, where, things are always very volatile. So we went through rough patches where I recall, we went to financial issues with the family. And I think that kind of colored my perception of investing and the sense of insecurity, right, around money. So I think a lot of us have developed those very early, relationship with money where you feel emotional about it. And for me, definitely it's a sense of I need to make money. I need to understand how to feel safe, right? Because having lack of money or having those volatility made me very uncomfortable. I was growing up. We had to, sell our house, move into a smaller place. And those are very triggering memories for me. And that kind of, I think, stayed with me throughout. And I think, a lot of research have shown, right, for girls particularly, as early as 7 to 8, a lot of our money understanding, our relationship with money was really established at a very, very young age. So I think that's where I take the note back to, reflect on my relationship with money. And I think for me, it's definitely one that I want to be in control of. So early age, I start to learn a bit more about how to invest, listen a bit more to what my parents are talking about in terms of equity, stock markets, and, really try to feel in control.
But why is this a girl thing? Like, why is 7 to 8 is a girl thing?
Yeah, maybe I'll just touch on that a little bit. Going back to the household, I think, especially within sort of, a Singapore kind of context, is we grow up actually in a very Confucius way. So, for example, your thoughts of filial piety, stay in your place, the interests of the family and all that before self. And I think a lot of it's like a mantra that's taught to us. That's how we grow up, right?
Yes.
So I think it's that Confucius kind of upbringing from young. And I think, sort of from 3, 4, 5, when we're more conscious, I think, 7, 8 is kind of where we start testing boundaries and behavior and all that. So, to Sharon's point, that's kind of early days where I think where behavior and mindset, is sort of cast, right? And as we grow up, what we experience is that there is quite a bit of dissonance, because as we go to school, as we start working, I think our outlook and what we're exposed to here in Singapore becomes very westernized, right? So it's a different set of values, right? Whereby, it's in school, we're said, oh, actually meritocracy, if you do well, you can actually do better. And then as we go into the workplace, the influences are that, hey, you must look after yourself, because like, if you don't look after yourself, no one will look after you. There is no greater good, that is going to sort of hurt us along. So I think that dissonance, and hence that relationship between the money mindset or the values that we hold, us versus self, becomes more and more tested and contested. So I think that is, again, then as we go into adulthood, where we really test the boundaries around what is our relationship with money and what is our healthy mindset with money.
I think back to maybe to add on to that flavor around why is it maybe a more prominent issue with women or girls, right? I think we're all brought up a very traditional Asian family, right? Girls have to be nice, girls have to be good, right? So it's a good girl, good daughter syndrome. And then for me, I'm the eldest daughter, right? So there's even more pressure to be the role model. So I think those colors, those kind of, I think, mindset, and I think the stories we tell ourselves or the way our parents brought us up really shape our value system.
Yeah, so I'm also the eldest daughter. So, you're growing up, it's look after your younger siblings,
You're vibing,
right?
huh?
Yeah. Look after your younger siblings, because they're younger, parents go
Like
out
a
to
pseudo
work.
mommy, right?
I'm also the eldest daughter.
Yeah, there you go. Vibing.
Okay, end of story today. That's it. Yeah.
No, but I think I would add on to say some of it is also inherited.
Because elder daughter lah, so you can. Okay.
Like as they were talking about it, and back to the question of why women and this relationship, right? Like if we look at the text that we read, the books that are being written, the figures in the landscape, the truth is the finance world is just so male dominated. I mean, to be honest, you think of all the classic investment books, right?
It's made for men,
Yeah.
Written and made for
How
men.
many women authors can you name? I think I only can name one, Lauren Templeton, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, I cannot name any other. Even Cathy Wood was only a recent household name phenomenon.
And they villainized her.
Yeah, I know, right?
exactly.
So it's like without all of that role models, the females, we tend to think that, oh, maybe it's a female thing that we're not good with money, that we're not meant to excel in this world. And it's a lot to take figures like you guys and what you have done with the book and everyone else to really keep breaking that narrative so that the females will realize, hey, this is not something that I have to necessarily inherit. It doesn't mean that just because in the past the men ruled the world, doesn't mean that I can't step up and start making a change. And we're starting to see more women in the finance world in recent times, but that's still like a overall narrative that we have to start, pushing and shaping and cracking so that the next generation won't grow up with that.
So do you see a generational shift? Do you think it's better now? Do you think like women is better in money in this generation?
Absolutely at the junction of a generational shift, because I think, with our parents or with our moms, they grew up when they were bringing us up, I think their opportunities, their education was much more limited. Their opportunities were more limited. And, even if they had the opportunity to go out to work, that juggling sort of home and work basically just absorbed, the entire time and energy. I think the point and the juncture that we are at now is that we're much more aware. That's one. I mean, with information and all that. And also, I think now we're starting to see with our generation, when there are children involved, when there's kids involved, when it's us, talking to, more senior women and more junior women at work, the dialogue is already starting to shift. So, but the problem is that we are still still talking. I think that we need much more action in order to effect change in the right direction.
Yeah.
In what sense?
Well, I mean, I think, representation is definitely, voice and representation is what we're working very hard on right now. So making sure that, this whole money topic gets voiced and, speaking with allies and, friends in our immediate work environments and, life environments to talk about this money and women topic. I think the voice and, the speaking up for is absolutely necessary to, in the money and investment world, whether we're talking about having the right sort of gender balance in the workforce, having the right representation. So, Dawn talked about having the right role models. You may be surrounded by a lot of women at work, but if they are assistants, or like back office staff, or, very few kind of women who can lead the way. And if and when they do, if they behave very much, or they got there by taking a lot of male characteristics, that's also, I think, an area that's in a zeitgeist and is in a period of change.
I think for me, what helped, right, was I think there was the text. I can't remember if it was a published book or just a text that said Warren Buffett invests like a woman. And that was like the thing that shaped me. Like, hey, if his success is because he invests exactly like the woman,
What does it even mean?
No, I think
what does a woman
I
even
understand
mean?
what she's saying. I think women invest differently, right? Because
Yeah.
we've been in the investment world for quite a long time. So I think we can sort of get a sense of how the styles are different. I think for me, women invest for the very long term. I think just by nature, we want to do a lot of research. We do a lot of due diligence. We read up, right? We read books. We actually get opinions from different experts. So we have a very balanced view of investing. We weigh up, right? Pro, cons.
more conservative.
Yeah,
for
conservative.
sure.
Not conservative. I think we are
No.
very risk adjusted.
Yes, research adjusted.
Because we
Risk
are
aware,
not,
risk adjusted, yeah.
we're not as easily carried away with, I guess, the hype. We're not like dashing into investing in bitcoins and crypto. We want to understand the fundamentals, and therefore Warren is very good at doing that. Right, his strategy is really value investing. Right, looking at what is the company worth, what is the stock price worth, what are you paying for. I think that's something very natural to us. Right, we kind of compare the valuation a lot closer, and when we make that decision, that investment decision, I think we tend to stay with that a lot longer. Right, so that's also one of the reasons why studies have shown that females outperform male investors over the 5-year period, right? Because we stick with our investments. We are not as emotional as guys, I would say, when it comes to trading or, chasing after the new investment thesis, anything that new and shiny comes out. I think we are very steady in our view. We do our research, we invest, and we stick with it for the long run. So this is exactly, what Warren Buffett is known for, right? He's a long-term investor. He's a value investor, and he does his research, and he sticks with his view, and he changes, of course, as things progress. But I think we as women can really relate with that, right? When we invest for the long run.
I think what it means, I think, to Reggie's point also, exactly what makes women different in this equation or this dialogue is, yes, we are longer term. Research has proven and shown that, yes, we're not more conservative, not more risk averse, we're more risk aware and risk adjusted. And I think the third point is that women tend to like to invest in a more values driven way. So which is now, this current kind of wave around wanting to do well and do good. So whether it's, making sure that, when it comes to climate, when it comes to more, supporting women founders, for example, or even, for example, buying toilet paper. Like if we could, we would buy the one that's sustainably made, or if we, have, I don't know, if we go to lunch, if it was a place that, this is for me. So there was an auntie that had the polystyrene cup. Then I said, Auntie, can you, next time you change to the, something different, like a paper cup or something? And I made that choice, right? Because she didn't want to change. I never bought from her again. So I think women are also more values driven.
I think another one I would add is that we're also more willing or faster to acknowledge when we are wrong. And that is partially generational, right? Because we have always been thinking, the men know what they're doing. We're not so sure. So when things change, information change or trends change, we're also faster to say, I might have made a mistake. So that gives us the opportunity to like cut our losses faster or move on and correct that earlier than if we were. Like a lot of my male friends, I realize they tend to be very protective, very attached to their ideas and investments. Like, no, I can't be wrong. No, confirm it's other people wrong. I'm the right one. But for women, we're like, no, maybe I'm the one who's wrong. Let me go and do a bit more reading and talk to more people to get a sense of it. And I think that helps.
But women and relationship with money, I think that part
Yourself.
is very complicated.
Yeah.
And that part is what I wanted to cover today. I think that is very, very important. Right. So which is back to the question of like, what is a healthy relationship with money, and why it always sounds like, like, or at least women make it sound like women has different set of struggles. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to understand that a little bit more. So what is healthy relationship with money? Like maybe from your view. Yeah.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying Wise and Shine so far. I'm your host Reggie, aka your chief financial coconut, and for us to continue to do this show so that you become a tad bit wiser every week, you gotta like, share, subscribe, help us beat the algorithm. But even more importantly, if you can, comment in the comment section below. Let us know your thoughts and also some questions that you would love us to answer. Yep, now back to the show.
For me, I want to view money as a friend, right? So a friend meaning I can talk to a friend. I can get help from a friend. So it's a very healthy two-way relationship with money. So obviously that requires a lot of, being self-aware of where you are financially, and then, not shy away from taking a harsh look at your own balance sheet or your own finances. So a lot of women tend to, not care so much about how much they spend, be it on credit cards or, splurges that you have. And I think that's also that relationship where you almost feel like very ashamed to spend money. You don't want to, admit to yourself that maybe you should cut back on expenses. So having that open relationship with money for me it liberates me a lot, because sometimes you feel like, oh, I want to splurge, maybe I close a deal, I feel good about the promotion, that's fine, but you need to also then review what you have, right? Meaning, what's your yearly targets? What are you planning for the next 5 years? Retirement at some point. So having that conversation with money, your finances, like a friend, and don't be afraid, don't be ashamed to admit that, oh, I need to work harder because I need to save up for my property, my house. I think having this two-way conversation with money is very important. And also, I'm a big believer in treating money as a friend, because as a friendship, you need to talk to a friend, you need to like hang out, spend time with a friend, you need to invest, okay? So the same thing with money and your retirement, your dream home, you have to constantly review that relationship, right? Am I thinking about saving because I want to invest, because I want to buy my first property? Are you having that, attention that you want to give to your goals, which is to own a property, and the relationship with the money, that the steps you have to take to get there? So I find for me it's a very I would look at it as a friend. I would talk to my investment goals like I would as a friend, like how are you doing? Oh,
Oh, that's quite
yeah.
cute.
So you make it very approachable. I think a lot of
a bit
women
more
find
gentle,
very
more approachable.
Yes.
I like it.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a personal experience I have. I think once you realize that, okay, it's not your enemy, it's not something so difficult, it's not a awkward conversation, then you become more relaxed, right? You can really think objectively what you should be tweaking to maybe your spending, how are you looking at your investments, and as a friend, the feedback should be also received
as a friend.
As a friend,
Yeah.
But that as an that story in itself, as an assumption, you didn't start like that.
I
Right?
didn't.
So
Right?
what changed? What made you shift? And what?
Yeah. So I think it's about mindset and also rewriting those inner dialogues we have. So I started my story where I was feeling very insecure about money, and I hated that feeling of, uncertainty and, almost being afraid of looking at money. And I think it really struck me when I was growing up, and I think, my career also changed my mindset a little bit more, because I did see that, there's also the good part of finance, right? Where you can create a portfolio, right? Your equities, even when you dabble into fixed income or crypto, that actually it's empowering, right? And I think when I made that first investment when I was fairly young, I think it was early 20s, I feel very empowered. Like,
You're not
I'm
afraid.
finally
First time
taking
invest, I'm very
control.
afraid.
Of course, it's like fear and excitement lah, because you're making your first investment, maybe a stock market or buy a stock. But I think once you get over that, right, the inertia or that whole self-doubt thing, I think for me, I felt powerful. And I really like that feeling, right, of, oh, I'm taking control now. Actually, the investment didn't end very well. I lost money. But that's also the learning experience I tell myself, right? That, okay, it's fine. You make a mistake. I mean, I didn't lose everything. Clearly, I don't have a lot of money to begin with. But that process really changed my mindset about money. So instead of feeling bad about it or, unsure, all the negative experience, I kind of put, when you make that first move, the small investment, and I think the feeling I got from that was enough to change my mind, right? To kind of tell myself, I can do this, and it feels very empowering.
I'm picking out a lot of good keywords there. So it sounds like what you're saying, a healthy relationship with money is one that involves balancing between all these emotions that we tend to feel, not just female or male, but you feel empowered. You sometimes feel control or a loss of control, and how do you navigate with that? You'll feel fear, and you'll learn, right? And all of this, when you can balance between all these 5 elements and emotions, well, I think
Enjoy will come out.
I'll take a bit of a different perspective on it, in that, what is a healthy mindset with money? Because Reggie, you made that question a very difficult one, because there's there's mindset, and then there's money.
Yes.
Right. And I think as with the journey in life, I think when you feel healthy and when you have a good mindset is when you have a good relationship with yourself. So as with, our relationships, our mindsets with, close family, partner, spouse, work, money, is when I think we can resolve within ourselves what is our attitude or values towards it. So very big topic, but I think very, very fundamental, because if, let's say, the way I grew up is that my parents didn't talk about money, and it was a mindset of scarcity rather than abundance, because, we come very middle class, very HDB kind of family growing up, which is very...
Thanks for not saying very, very poor background.
No. I mean,
everybody tell me they from Chala.
No, it's not Chala. It's not Chala. Very average,
professional,
very average. Take bus to school. That's what. Not really. Don't have to worry about next meal on the table. At least not that I was aware of. But it was a time whereby we had, I thought, was enough. It didn't affect my childhood, but even though when I look back now, actually it wasn't a lot, in today's lenses, a lot, but it didn't make me feel
like you were deprived.
That I wasn't deprived,
No, it's actually quite a good place to be.
So I think
already,
that's already, I think, a good starting point, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of conflicts go along the way, because it's when you start going to school, you compare. Your friends come to school, they don't take bus, they take car, their parents fetch them, or after school they pick them up, or they have this pencil case or that eraser that, different things that can trigger, very triggering, right?
They have a certain branded bag or shoe.
Correct.
And you don't.
Yeah. And then in secondary school, girls go for Esprit sale, but that's something kind of, a little bit not so attainable. So I think it's all these triggers and all these comparisons that bring us very far away from our core attitude towards money, or what we really need. Then I think what we spend our adult life doing is coming back to that core, asking those questions around, who am I? What do I stand for? What does money mean to me? Right? So it's a journey. And again, I think it would be unfair to generalize, because everybody needs to go away from and come back and find your own core.
Yeah.
So it's a very complicated question that you ask.
Exactly.
And how I've resolved it, sort of going away and coming back, is that now my healthy mindset or the attitude towards money is, I now understand better, much better, when people say it's a means to an end, or the analogy that I like to use is that it's like fuel for a car. It's supposed to bring you to places. It's a means to bring you to all the wonderful, experiences in life, to all the people that you're going to meet, but it's not the end in itself, right? So how do we use that to then improve the quality of our daily lives, provide for people around us, give ourselves, boosts like education or coaching or whatever people, enjoy these days to feel more whole and fulfilled. These are all kind of means that money can help us along the way. It's when we obsess about what is that number that is, enough, is it like X million, then I think we become much more focused on things that will make us unhappy, conflicted.
Yeah. I love it. slightly earlier, you're talking about the dissonance. Like you start, this is where you start. And then as you go into the workplace, as you move up in the ladder, and then it's like, oh, there are all these people. And then it constantly challenges your view, right? Regardless of your gender, right? You just see new things like, can like that one.
Yeah.
Right? And then you always, this thing is like an endless tussle. Right. And sometimes people do feel like, why am I doing this? Right. And then it's a back and forth. You rarely land back on exactly where you start, but you have to kind of find a place that you're comfortable.
Absolutely.
Right. So that's the interesting part, right? So, and maybe we can share some maybe more practical tips towards getting there. Right. So whether is it part of the dissonance or managing the emotion or some actual practical steps that some of the ladies that you've interviewed that they do, right?
Maybe I'll offer sort of two.
Yeah.
I think one is more acknowledgement that, and Dawn can attest to this. Women are very good at saving, or thinking that saving is the path to financial independence. Saving may be necessary, but it's not sufficient, right? So this whole mentality around saving, it's a limiting mindset. I think that's one that, we need to sort of call out and encourage change in. It's not a luxury problem, by the way. If you can start sort of making money work harder for you in whatever ways. It doesn't mean that, like after you get promoted or you reach a certain salary bracket, then you can start investing or making money work harder for you. And so I think that's one limiting mindset that we want to call out and say, hey, no go. And two, I think sort of looking back, always start earlier. Earlier with time compounding, being the eighth wonder of the world, it's definitely the earlier you start and the earlier you kind of have that. You don't even need to be financially resolved to do that. You just need to make sure that if I go to the gym and exercise, if I go treat myself, to a restaurant meal, then you should also jolly well put a few $1,000s, into some kind of investing. It's in the same bucket as going on holiday and, that it's a necessity. So I think once we have that kind of sort of very practical, it becomes a muscle that we exercise on a very regular, even daily basis. I think the better it is. Yeah.
Is there something that you guys saw as a parallel among all the 24 women that you interviewed, that they all see money and investing as one core necessity, a muscle that they have to keep exercising with?
Actually, it's varied. Like, I wouldn't say every one of them have that muscle, right? So I think the fact that it's like people at different stages of their lives, because our spectrum is pretty wide. I mean, the women that were featured started as, we have 20-over-year-olds, we have someone who's maybe hitting 70. So it's a very wide spectrum. Yeah. So as we said before, your relationship with money also evolve over the years, right? And therefore, I think the takeaways are quite varied. Definitely invest is one. Invest early, start early. I think those are very important things. And I think what's important, and I thought was quite real, is to invest in yourself. I think for women, we tend to be caregivers most of our lives. I think we alluded to the fact that we have this good daughter syndrome, this good girl syndrome. So we want to take care of people around us. So I think the whole idea of investing in yourself, it may not be financial. It could be just giving yourself that extra boost, the confidence. For me, it was recently I signed up for a public speaking course, right? I engaged a coach because I always have stage fright. I don't perform well, I think, right, in front of a bigger audience. So I think it's investing in yourself. And I think back to our point about this healthy relationship. So once you feel good about yourself, you feel confident, you're investing time and money to make yourself feel better, everything changed. Your mindset would change. You feel confident about maybe making that first investment. You feel, more ready to exercise your investing muscles. And I think that triggers a whole transformation of your inner narrative, right? So I think the book brought across all this very complicated, I guess, takeaways. It's not as simple as, okay, everybody go out there and invest, right? It's really about tackling yourself first, right? Looking inwards, being very reflective, looking at your past, your current, and where do you want to go in the future. So money obviously is a tool. We all know that. But I think this is a very important tool to have, right? Because you know that without money, right, we can't be secure in our retirement. We cannot achieve our dream home. So I think there's a lot of things that are very real and also very emotional. So I think that's just the way I look at the takeaways. Is really complex, very varied stories with the women, but also very emotional. And investing in yourself really resonated with me.
Yeah. No, and I can attest to that, because I think a lot of people, if they go down this rabbit hole of like, look inside, look inward, all this mental health thing, right? Then everyone tries to find the root, right? Some trauma somewhere, right? From 50 years ago or something, right? So, and the process of doing that is long, complicated, tedious. And if you get there, great, good on you. Maybe you can solve it fundamentally. But the other way around it is really to change some of the things around you, right? Whether is it to make a bit more, whether is it to, meet new people. And somehow the parameters, the externalities of the past, right, actually affects how you then relook at, these traumas or these stories that you have gathered over time. It's actually a different way to kind of work with it.
Yes.
And I think it's easier rather than keep looking deep. It's very hard. This is long, deep work, right?
Yeah.
I think sharing the stories also is a form of a therapy, right? You can bring out a lot of maybe issues that you didn't think about that affected you in the past and affects how you look at money now.
For sure.
And I think that's why we're excited to have more of these conversations, right? As we talk to more people, more women, I think more of the stories will come out. And hopefully it is productive in the sense that you are now more self-aware, right? And back to your point about what's the next step? What actions do you want to take on the back of that? And I think that's all very personal because investing is a very personal journey, right? So not everybody will feel comfortable buying a stock, investing it in crypto. But I think marginally, you just change your mindset. That opens a different horizon, right? Or the way we look at talking to new people becomes very different. I think the way we receive those information becomes very different as well.
Yeah. And back to what you said about like changing the external environment, right? I think sometimes for some women as well, depending on what role or where they're from, they may not have access to all these better or different factors that would help them, right? Like maybe they want to talk about money deep down, but because no one else around them is willing to open up, so it's hard. But then if they read books like what you guys have written and they're like, oh, there's 20 over women who are so open about it. Maybe I'm just looking in the wrong places. And it's easier for them to find these communities. And I say this because in my conversations with many of my readers, right, one common question that they always ask me is like, Dawn, why you never set up a community for us women in investing? I'm like, number one, budget babe is not meant to be a gender only thing. But number two, I also think that we don't just get good perspective from talking to people who are of the same gender. You can talk to everyone. But the challenge also in trying to find your own community online is that sometimes it's very messy and there's more noise, which then makes us even worse at managing our money.
That's
or
why there's
investments.
value in being in person together, right?
Correct.
It's not
And I
the
think
same.
what's great with the book is that by having all of that in just one book that people can pick up and they can see at one shot 20 over different stories, and they can, maybe not all 20 will be something that they can relate to, but they're bound to find at least some stories in there. They're like, hey, yes, I can recognize this in my own life. I kind of see where that is from, and that could be enough to sometimes spark the change. And that will then start them on that journey of reevaluating what's their relationship with money. Are they seeing it as an enabler or as a limiting factor, as a friend, as an enemy? So maybe that's all we need for a start.
Yeah, fair. And to be fair, the factors and mindsets, they do become enabling and disenabling depending on the context that you're positioning it with, right? Yeah. So maybe last question. Let the guy get the last question. Okay? Yeah. So since this whole thing is a lot about women, right? Which is great. So I want to know, and I think it's high time guys participate in this conversation, right? How do you think personally that the men in your life can support you and empower you to live a healthier relationship with money?
I have a very open relationship with my husband around money. I think
That's very nice.
Yeah, we talk about it. And I think from day one, I was quite clear that I need to have my own bank account, right?
Actually, I support one. I think that's important. Yes.
Yes, I think, and similar for him, he can have his own bank
Yes.
account. We have a joint account for family expenses and all that, right? But I think also to the fact that I want to have control over how I invest my money, right? So I think it's very clear from the start, the conversations around, we have different views of investing. I think we're all very different in terms of risk profiling, and he likes certain types of investment. I prefer equity, which is why I grew up. I'm most comfortable investing in stocks. So I think that's where we can always set some kind of boundary, right, in the relationship. And I think this is very important. I think as the marriage progresses and, the stresses of life, you have more bills to pay, the kids come out. So there's a lot of things that would be stress factors on the relationship. And I think a lot of it will be driven by finances. The fact that we contribute equally, right, to the joint account is something that is quite sacred to us. I'm saying that because we go through different phases in career, right? So at some point, I was making a lot less than him, and the earlier days, he was making a lot less than me because he was in civil service. So therefore, we, no matter where you are, I think we kind of decided that let's contribute equally. Right. And therefore, I think we both have equal control over the joint finances of the family. And I think that kind of created a very stable foundation for me. So when I invest in my own from my own account, I know how much I can afford to invest, because part of it is really gone to the joint account, and that is to take care of the daily necessities of life, and the rest is my money, right? So I feel that I have that control to invest it the way I like to. And I think people ask me this question: do you discuss with your husband, what to invest in? And my answer is that I do like to share, but I don't need his approval to decide, right? I pull the
validate.
trigger.
Yeah.
I pull the trigger because it's going to be my losses, right, if anything goes bad, and also because I understand I can afford to lose it, right? I'm not going to bet the whole farm on it, right? So I think that's where that gives me a lot of freedom to really be creative, look at different types of investments. So I've actually invested in startup companies. I invested in other companies as well. So because I have that freedom to kind of decide on my own, I think that's very important to me, and to have that control. Maybe it throws back to the early days where I felt this insecurity around money, right? But having this relationship with my husband where we can be open enough to say, you do your thing, I do my thing, but the family will be taken care of, which is the fundamental. That provides me a lot of, I guess, relief. It's very clear for me.
Nice.
Yeah.
nice,
Maybe I'll take a
nice.
more vulnerable approach to it, meaning that I think when it comes to discussing with your partner, husband, wives, around money, well, first of all, I think communication breakdown is always the root of all relationship breakdown, right? So, and that's one. And I think the second point is that money is a very triggering issue in a relationship, especially when when the two parties are further apart. So I'm not saying that you need to be a relationship of equals financially all the time. That's impossible. But you need to be aware that there will be times whereby you may be more, there may be times you may be less. I mean, and a female perspective, again, very hard to generalize, because we know people and we've been ourselves in situations whereby we may be in a position we earn a lot more than the guys or the male partner, and we've heard our friends say that actually I don't want to have this conversation at home, because end of the year I just hope I earn a little bit less, because I just don't want to have that that sense that there's inequality. If it's inequality, I can deal with it, but maybe I don't want him to have to deal with it. So again, I think that comes back to the female kind of mindset, something that we need to be aware. If it's not serving us, change. If it's serving us, keep it. So I think that's one. And then coming back to communication, and also your question was around what is it that the men around us can help. Opening up and asking for this conversation. It's not, I'm not saying it's like asking for the first date. You need the guy to ask, to go on that first date. Because actually, I feel that we have a lot of willingness to open up, to talk about it, to be vulnerable about it. But because we're already starting from a point whereby very unsure, already bracing, a lot of tension, right? All you need sometimes is somebody to open up that topic, or set aside time to want to talk about it, or discuss certain milestones, in the relationship. I think that's something that we hear a lot of females craving for, but not so much the guys, actually doing something about it, or not just assuming status quo. So I think that's definitely, that communication needs to be very healthy in order for all aspects of our relationship, particularly, with regards to money, to be a healthy one as well.
I think that's really helpful because sometimes like pushing a lot of things under the carpet and not having those conversations early can actually fester and create even bigger problems later on.
So
and then
Nicholas
that could
always
be-
open the carpet.
Don't even let it be pushed under the carpet. Yeah, don't even
Nicholas,
have
very good,
carpet.
yeah.
Right.
Remove
Don't
the
have
carpet.
zero carpet.
Yeah,
Always
yeah.
talk about it, always in the open, so that there's a chance to, really fix it before things escalate. I think that's really helpful.
Nice. Awesome. So thank you for
Thank
today.
Thank
It's the
you.
first episode. We'll do one more. And the next episode, we'll focus a little bit more on this relationship and money with your partner. There's so much more there. So yes, we hope you enjoyed today, and you can check out their book, right? We'll put the link in the description below. And you have specific questions for them, you can put in the comment section.
In the
And then
comments
if there's a lot of
below.
comments, right, we'll get them back. Okay?
Yeah,
So
and stay
yes.
tuned for part 2.
Stay tuned. See ya. Bye.